Hi guys, I'm Sophie and this is Anna. We're juniors at DuPont Manual High School and we love to work together. We've been friends for so many years and we love to bake together, study together, pet cats together, and even build rockets together. But most of all, we love presenting together. We have very different backgrounds and grew up in drastically different environments. Yet through collaboration and teamwork in so many different projects, we've been able to broaden our own perspectives and grow our own mindsets. This skill of collaboration is something that we believe to be vital to all growth, both personal and societal. In fact, we believe that collaboration is the most important thing inspiring academic growth and success.
The world is an extremely diverse place, with a variety of perspectives, and it thrives off of collaboration, which is why the American education system primes us to collaborate from a young age, so that we can learn to tolerate diversity.
As I said earlier, we both go to DuPont Manual High School, which is one of the top-ranked schools in the nation. But we believe the reason for Manual's success is in its diversity and collaboration. 36% of Manual's student population are racial minorities, along with many LGBTQ and disabled students who are not represented in these public statistics. So during class discussions, after-school clubs, and group projects, we are able to interact with so many different people and cultures, and thus we are also exposed to a variety of perspectives and ideas that we would not have been had the school been more uniform. And that's what inspires our artists to create such culturally relevant pieces, what stimulates our scientists to consider problems facing groups other than their own, and what animates our actors and musicians to perform symphonies and plays from composers of all different backgrounds.
We tend to think of school as a place where we learn subjects and memorize facts, but in reality, education is about much more than that. By learning with other students, we are able to learn how to collaborate and learn from those who have a background different from our own. As students, we're constantly assessed on our intelligence, and it can be easy to lose sight of other skills that we learn. While we can't quantify things like teamwork and tolerance, these skills are essential to the real world. And we must be mindful of how we can best promote collaboration within our own classrooms.
Once we learn to tolerate each other in the presence of diversity, we can then work on improving how we deal with conflict in the presence of multiple perspectives. I mentioned earlier that Anna and I both really love building rockets together, which is a passion that we developed in our time in an extracurricular called Science Olympiad. And Science Olympiad is where students get together in teams and compete in various different science disciplines within various different events. In our time at Science Olympiad, both Anna and I have had the opportunity to work with students and scientists from so many different backgrounds and cultures, which has also inevitably exposed us to a lot of conflict. For several years, Anna and I competed in an event called Bottle Rockets, where teams of two were instructed to complete a rocket made out of soda bottles that would remain in the air for the longest amount of time. So naturally, we got together and we started building. And what we would notice is that we would build and fail and build and fail.
It escalated to the point where we were finishing our final design the night before the competition. It was around 9 or 10 o'clock, and we had been building for around 7 hours. And there had been a serious lack of communication from the beginning. I wanted to build the rocket one way, and Sophie wanted to build it another. But neither of us communicated this. Instead, we finished our design in silence, neither of us satisfied. Now we look back on the situation and laugh, but in the moment, it was an extremely tense and awkward conflict that could have easily been resolved. But this conflict taught us two very important things about collaboration. The first is that in order to experience the full benefits of collaboration, we have to be vocal about our own opinions. If Sophie or I had simply spoken up about what we wanted, we would have been able to build a design that we both liked. But instead, we didn't experience these full benefits because we didn't have good communication.
Second, we must also learn to be empathetic of others. We have to recognize that we are not the only people with opinions and experiences, and we have to reach out to each other to let others know that their opinions are valued and being considered.
But this can't be truly effective if all people involved in collaboration aren't open to this communication. This is the only way we will be able to truly learn from one another. And even if conflict does arise between these multiple perspectives, this can actually be a very humbling experience, as it enables us to realize that we are not the only able-bodied and opinionated people, and that we have to recognize that and accept that in order to continue to learn and grow.
And this reflection allows us to broaden our perspectives, to recognize that there are methods of doing things that we would not have thought of by ourselves. And this dogma has been apparent since the beginning of human life, all the way back during tribal times, when collaboration and self-reflection were established as evolutionary advantages. For example, if you and I were part of the same tribe, and we were both hungry, and I knew where the fish lived, and you had skills in carpentry, we would then work together to build a boat and reach the fish and satiate our hunger. In the end, I would have a new appreciation for the skills of carpentry, and you a new understanding of the living habits of our food source. And subsequently, our society would have a new way of feeding itself, thus progressing. This collaboration is still apparent and necessary today.
Today we celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a figure heavily discussed in our English class for his amazing oratory and writing abilities. We've both been able to share our perspectives of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and letter from Birmingham jail as part of class discussions. And this has enabled us to broaden our perspectives of the world, as we're able to see how people of different backgrounds approach King's words. And in addition, it allows us to experience the full benefits of what multiple perspectives can bring to this conversation.
However, there are still major flaws in the US education system that intrinsically inhibit growth and collaboration. And one of these flaws is separation. If you went to school in the United States, or if you went to elementary school in the United States, you probably remember being separated into different groups at the beginning of learning reading and math. At my school, these groups were divided by color. There was the red group, the green group, and the blue group. And it didn't take long for students to recognize what these colors meant. There were high achievers, average achievers, and low achievers. And the teacher had placed us into these groups based on how quickly they thought we could learn the material.
This is called ability grouping, and it's practiced at least 60% of American elementary schools. In theory, this method makes sense, and many teachers believe it enables them to cater to students' individual knowledge and abilities. But in reality, ability grouping can have far more complicated consequences. Studies have continuously showed that low-income and minority students are disproportionately placed into lower achieving groups. This limits their access to more challenging content and the ability to collaborate with their higher performing peers. In fact, ability grouping has been shown to widen the gap between high and low performers further than what initially separated them. And this separation limits all students' access to the full diversity of their peers, and thus from the diversity of the real world.
When Anna and I first began studying the effects of ability grouping, we were both shocked. For the majority of our lives, we have been grouped into groups based on our learning capabilities. And we had thought that it had done nothing but benefit us. But then we started thinking about the kids that we went to elementary school and even middle school with, and the groups that they had been placed into. These separations are still apparent even today. In fact, Anna and I have been in the same math class with the exact same 16 kids since the 6th grade. And this is problematic for several reasons. First of all, it's restricted the number of students and people that we've been in contact with and communication with during our time of growth in the learning process. And subsequently, it's also affected the number of perspectives that we've been able to encounter during that time period.
The alternative to this is called mixed grouping. Students of different ability levels learn together with access to challenging curriculum. This type of learning environment has been shown to be extremely beneficial. Low and average performing students learn at a much faster pace than when they're separated from the rest of the group, and high performers continue to grow at a normal pace.
So while there are aspects of the education system that are intrinsically flawed and do require improvement, we still need to work together as students to collaborate and promote teamwork in order to better our understanding of the world and improve our perspectives. While we as students cannot choose our classmates, we can choose how we approach teamwork.
We must recognize how much we can learn from one another and be open to discussion despite our differences. This is the only way we can truly learn from one another. We must be inspired by those around us and work to inspire those around us. Thank you.